Hello ladies, I hope that your day is going well and struggle love free. In this video, I want to talk about when being a safety net in a relationship goes wrong and avoiding these dysfunctional relationships. If you haven't already, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you'll be notified every time that I upload a new video. I want to talk about being a safety net in a relationship. This is a very problematic dynamic for us as women to be a safety net for a man in a relationship. We need to be very mindful of this situation, this scenario, this dynamic, and be averse to entering into it. One of the common themes that I see playing out in different stories about problematic relationships, one of the themes that is consistent and consonant with struggle love is in terms of being the ride or die, being Barbara the Builder, but also being a safety net of sorts. So in other words, we are with a man. It is a relationship that is hypogamous or quasi-hypogamous, where we are helping financially, where we are paying 50-50 or more than 50-50% of the bills, where we're being Barbara the Builder, where a man who is not financially astute, financially consistent, financially responsible, whose income is very inconsistent, where we are acting as his safety net. He knows that he can seek and receive resources through us and from us. So unfortunately, when we enter into one of these hypogamous relationships where we are taking the lead, where we are Barbara the Builder, where we are acting as a safety net, this can be very problematic for a number of reasons. But certainly what can happen is if at a later date we decide we no longer want to be in this relationship, it's not serving us, it can become very problematic when we want to remove the safety net that should have never been set up in the first place. And then we are pulling away from the relationship and we are removing that safety net. That is why it's so important for us to be mindful about entering into hypogamous relationships, into being Barbara the Builder, into financially saving a man who is capable of working and should be financially stable on his own. We have to be very mindful about that, because what then happens is that man is then become dependent upon us. We are in a codependent relationship. We are now taking on an adult dependent financially. He's dependent upon us for resources. It may be housing, it may be a car, it may be helping him out with bills, it may be a combination of all the above and then some. But he is financially reliant upon us. He is dependent upon us for his bills to be paid, for him to have housing, transportation, etc. It's very important that we take our time and do our due diligence, use discernment before we enter into a relationship. That is why it's so important when we have even the thought of getting into a relationship, that we take our time to see if this man fits the criteria. Does he meet our standard? Does he meet our standard, and does he also fit the criteria? And is this authentic? Are we receiving a representation, or is this the true him? That is what we have to determine. But that is going to take us being willing to do the vetting, the screening, the determination. Just the same as a job vet you, or different organizations may vet you to see if you fit their criteria, because some organizations don't just accept anybody. They may be very exclusive. There's country clubs that they don't just let anybody into, even if you have the money, even if you have the membership fee. They're not just going to accept you. They want to make sure that you meet the criteria. That is why it's going to be potentially very problematic, and it can be very detrimental to us to skip over a vetting process. When we use vetting in every facet of our life, whether it's picking out a particular stylist, whether it's picking out when it comes to our clothes, when it comes to our purses, when it comes to our shoes, when it comes to cars, when it comes to what neighborhood we live in, our insurance, etc., etc. We don't just grab the first thing that we see. We want to make a determination and an assessment to determine, is this right for me? So the same way we wouldn't automatically just go and purchase any car without doing an assessment of it, doing an evaluation, we would not be, it's not mindful for us to rush into a relationship without really screening and vetting and assessing and seeing, is this man really a good match for us? Because when we want to be in a relationship, it's best for us to be aligned with a man who is dependable, who's reliable, who's honest and truthful, where what he says is valid, is truthful, that he's a responsible man, that he is someone who is financially stable, who is emotionally stable, mentally stable, and most importantly, spiritually stable. We need to know what it is that guides his life. What are his goals, his passions, his vision, his objectives in life? We want to know how he feels about relationships and monogamy and matrimony. These are all very, very, very important. What is his health status? Does he pull up his my chart so that we can see what his health status is when we get into this very serious relationship where, let's say, we're on the verge of being married? It's very important that we're not love bombed or we don't develop involved in intimacy that leads to a soul tie, that then we feel like we need to rush into a relationship. Because one of the key elements of us becoming a safety net in a relationship is that there will be a huge rush to be in this committed relationship very quickly. There won't be a lot of time that he wants to spend vetting. And we have to recognize these signs. We have to recognize these signs because they're consistent with these relationships where you're going to become Barbara the Builder, where you're going to be involved in struggle love, and you're going to be involved in being a safety net. When a man's looking for a safety net, he will quickly want to rush into a relationship. And that is why we need to do the assessment. One of the key things is, does this man have stable housing and is it in his name? And that's pivotal because if he has always lived with others, he will then be looking to live with us just the same in a similar fashion. And it will happen very quickly if his housing is about to become scarce or obsolete. So he will very quickly want to move in together because we already have the stable housing that he can now partake of and he can now nest in. And so we have to be checking and confirming and assessing, does this man have stable housing and is his name on that lease? Is it in his name? Because see, what can happen is that a woman can be love bombed and rushed into a relationship and she's thinking, oh, this is great. This man is already ready to move in together, live together, all of this, which I wouldn't suggest until the marriage stage. Buying a home together, moving into his home, buying. Very quickly, this man will want to rush into a relationship. It's important to know, what is his housing situation looking like? What does his lease look like? Is he on the lease? Because if he has become accustomed to just giving mama, grandma, auntie, sister, cousin, best friend $300 and then he moves in with you, his perception may still be, I'll just give you $300 and this is going to cover the rent. This is going to cover my portion of the electricity, the water, the sewer, the cable, the home phone, the landline. It's going to cover all of that. And this is how he's been living. So we can have totally different perceptions. Whereas we may think, oh, he's going to come pay half or more of these bills. And his thought is, I'm just going to give you a little something on it. I'm going to put something on it, that $300 that I usually give mom. So then we have a discordance there. That's why it's so important that we don't set up this nest, that we don't become this safety net. Because when you look at these recurring stories of women that have gotten into these relationships that are difficult to extricate yourself from, that are problematic, that are detrimental, that are bringing a lot of stress and drama, is that there's, again, the different perception, different understanding of expectations and responsibilities. But this man will quickly move in, and then it's not long before he loses his job, or his hours are cut, or he's decided now he wants to be a rapper. And he knows that you can be, because you're the fallback woman, because he knows you're going to get up and go to work every day at your job with the post office, being a nurse, your job working in a law firm, your job running your own corporation, running your own nonprofit, etc. He knows you're going to get up and go to work at least 5 days a week. season in and season out, whether it's raining, snow, sleet, whatever. You're going to be there. You're reliable and accountable, and that's what he's expecting, because now you have provided a place for him to nest in. Now he can pursue his dream, because he's tired of working 40 hours a week. He's tired of going to a job. He's now ready to become a rapper and put his dreams into motion. He's ready now to put all his efforts into becoming a rapper, and now he has you to hold him down and be that hypogamous come up woman, as well as Barbara the Builder. So you're going to be his perpetual infinite safety net. And that's going to be very problematic, because you already are taking care of yourself. You may have children. You may even have grandchildren you're taking care of. You may be helping with your elderly mother, your parents, etc. You may have a disabled relative who you're helping to care for, helping to provide an income source for. So now you have an adult dependent who's looking to you to be their safety net. They've hit the jackpot with you because of the fact that he's now able to nest under you, and you're able to be his safety net, and you're going to hold him down indefinitely, is the expectation. And that is where you see this recurring theme of where women are saying, no, I don't want to be involved in that kind of relationship. This is not what I signed up for. It's now difficult to extricate yourself from the relationship, because now this man is looking at the fact that his mama said it's time for him to leave the nest. He can't move back in with her. Other people don't want him to come couch surf because they know he may not leave ever. He just doesn't want to go to a men's shelter, of course. He does not have the credit or the finances to get a lease in his own name. That's why it's important to vet that from the beginning, is who is he living with, if anyone, is the lease in his own name. Because one thing about it, a man who has a not only reliable job, reliable income, but reliable housing is not going to be in a rush to move in with someone. There's men that will date somebody for 10, 15, 20 years, and they're still going to not get married, but they also want their own space, their own autonomy. They're not looking to move in with you and nest. It's important to know, what does that lease look like? Because if he's perpetually living with other people, he's just going to recreate that dynamic. But see, when you say, I don't want to deal with this, I don't want to be involved in this dynamic, the problem becomes he is now dependent upon you for his housing, maybe the transportation, maybe being able to just kick in $300 on household bills that are thousands. And so now when you pull that away from him and say you're on your own, you got to figure this out for yourself, which should be the expectation, because he's an adult. There can become a problem. He may lash out. This is where we unfortunately are seeing this lashing out. And we have to be really mindful, looking at that statistic of every 5 hours and looking at what women are going through, having to get restraining orders, having to take all of these legal actions to get away from a relationship that does not suit us, that does not serve us. We need to be very mindful. We need to be very mindful in seeing, all we're going through to extricate from a relationship, all of the legal proceedings that you're having to go through to extricate from a relationship where the man won't let go. That is why it's so important that we not set up a safety net. We should be expecting in a relationship to be with a provider as well as a protector. That should be our expectation. And if not, we can stay happily single. But entering into a hypogamous situation, being a safety net, Barbara the Builder, does not work out for us. We have the stats, we have the data, we have anecdotally, we have our own lived experiences. This has been going on for enough decades and generations now to see how that plays out, and it does not benefit us. It's a huge detriment. It's a burden. It's not a blessing. It's not a benefit. It's a liability. So it's important that we are equally yoked with someone financially, so that we are not getting into a situation where we have to provide resources and be a safety net. And if a man or a woman, if there is financial instability, then a relationship should be the last focus. The focus should be financial stability, financial literacy, and being able to be responsible so that we have steady income, or hopefully multiple income streams. But certainly it should not be getting into a relationship when our finances are in disarray and we don't have stable income. So avoiding that safety net, scenario and dynamic is very, very important. So we need to take our time, use discernment, recognize those red flags when we see them, and not rush, or be love bombed into a relationship that will be hard to disengage and disentangle from. Let me know what you think in the comments beneath the video. As always, be blessed. Continue to level up. Stay far away from these low budget, great value, not problematic safety net relationships, because you deserve better.